just learned. You know about syncing?
Getting the audio and video up.
Sync, yeah. Like I just did a podcast with a guy that makes movies, and he was like, "Just clap," and I was like, "Oh man, it's like the thing they use in the old movies."
Yeah, the clapper thing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I usually just like to kind of just roll into it without any, like, now we're hitting record thing, just so then you can like chop off the beginning.
Yes.
But yeah, I guess.
It's a nice camera too.
Yeah, it's Jason Webb. I don't really know about cameras, and he was like, just buy this one, and he like sent me a link to eBay, which was nice. So it's the same camera that he got. It's really nice because you can like yeah, you got to just kind of hold it close. You know, it's just like comedy, but you can't hear. I feel like headphones kind of it makes it more artificial.
Yeah,
like it makes it feel like we're not just talking. So, but comedians know how to hold the mic. But what was I saying? Oh yeah, Jason Webb was like, you should just get this camera because like you can, if it's a really wide shot, you can crop in and it's still like
that's
clear.
nice.
Whereas with the phone, it was like if you try to crop in, it was blurry for me. So.
Yeah, I think phones have that like fake. They have the AI or machine learning focus, so they're not actually focusing.
Yeah.
In real life, it's just like, oh, if this is the whole shot, this is the resolution you need.
Right.
It assumes what you want.
Yeah.
This is a real camera. I need to get a real camera. That's the next thing on my setup that I need to do.
It's been really awesome. Like it's like the biggest investment. I mean, I guess my computer's like cost more, but like it's been really worth it because like I didn't do any video till like a year ago, and I think that one's like $750 or something new, but on eBay it was $500. So it was like a big purchase, but I mean it's like paid for itself. Like you just record all the it's been a really good investment. I was using like my phone for way too long, and it just doesn't.
Yeah, I can't use my phone. The flip phone doesn't have the good quality that people are like, oh yeah, phone will be fine.
Oh yeah, use a flip phone.
Yeah.
So what do you use for like your YouTube stuff?
Well, it does have apps on it, but I have a Chromebook, and that's what I started out at the beginning of the year using, and I just upgraded to a nice like a gaming tower desktop computer.
About that. Yeah.
But I don't really play video games. I just wanted a nice graphics card so that I could run radar software while recording live streaming video.
Oh.
Which is kind of
it gets hot and like the fan comes on, it's like
yeah, this one doesn't crash. There's like very little latency. It's the best computer I've ever owned. So it is also a big investment because it was probably cost about as much as that camera, and I'm still just using a little USB plug-in, like a 720p webcam. But I think that the ability for my purposes for today's weather tonight, using the camera is not the important part. It's making sure that I can run all the software I want to while streaming. Yeah. Because if I don't stream, I'm not going to make it. Yeah. Like, I've learned that about myself with YouTube is I'm not as good at finishing the product. So if the product is already uploaded and it forces me to go in there. Yeah. But I am trying to work on editing videos. I filmed as I bleached and colored my hair for this round of color, I filmed videos.
Looks awesome.
Thank you. The inspiration was weather radar colors.
Oh, yeah.
So my hair will look like a big storm cell by the time we get into severe weather season in the springtime. I always love the springtime because of a lot of reasons, but mostly because there's really cool tornadoes to follow. I mean...
Oh, is that a spring thing?
Yeah,
it's like hurricanes are fall and...
Yeah.
And
I mean...
Tornadoes
can happen at any time, but the conditions are very ripe for tornadoes in the springtime.
Yeah. I like what you said about streaming. I think I just got a message from Larry. So I'm just but yeah, like cuz I try to build things so they're like as fast to like I'm like not quite full streaming like you said, but it's like the goal is for this to be like up as soon as unedited as possible. You know, if I have to listen back to this like 4 times and edit it, that's not really like I want to hang out and have the conversation. So I'm trying. That's what I like about this is it's pretty farm to table is pretty good.
Yeah.
I listened to it all one more time just to make sure there's not any clicks and pops, you know, and then I just throw it up. So it's like it's almost streaming, but I actually enjoy listening back because I'm finding that like you'll say a bunch of stuff and I didn't really catch a lot of it, and then when I listen back, I'm like, I can kind of
cool.
like, it's like reading a book where you can like pause after a sentence and think about it. And I've been getting a lot of ideas for comedy from this podcast.
Nice.
It's been very cool.
Oh, that's beautiful. We've got a great studio, all the natural light. And being like we're practically in the outdoors. This is beautiful.
Yeah, thank you. It's kind of weird trying to do it other places because the natural light is like part of the concept. It's like this house. It's a pretty small house. Emily built it like based on a trailer, like a single wide, but like scaled up. And so we just like there's like art projects, music. Now there's a podcast. We just kind of like we're just all like creative, and we just like it's just a big light box for getting messy and making shit and kids. And
that's so cool.
It's awesome.
That sounds like a great environment to grow up in. Honestly,
yeah,
this is really. Very cute.
Yeah, the ways that we're screwing our kids up, it's not like they're definitely encouraged to be creative. Like my parents were not, and I had to find that on my own. So I'm like, we're definitely like feelings, art. I'm sure there's some other things that I'm neglecting that I'll find out about later. You know, like like we were too creative or something.
That's the thing with anything in life is you got to make a choice and a commitment to a direct path, or you just end up with no direction.
Yeah. Oh. Come on in, Larry. You want to let him in? Yeah. Yeah, it's kind of weird trying to be like, I'm trying to treat comedy like a little bit more like a business and be organized now. But at its heart, it's like being a kid and being creative. So trying to have the balance.
Yeah.
But what's up, Larry? Come on in. We might cut the beginning off.
Well, it might be one, but it is Larry.
Yeah.
Might be one. Thank you for the vote of confidence.
Yeah, it's loose. We just started. There's a bathroom there too. Let me get you a drink. Do you want like caffeine or?
Yeah, water's fine.
Just water. I got some nice iced coffee and iced tea if you'd rather. Or
no, water's all
okay.
right.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, it's just.
You already started?
We're just
messing
spitballing.
Just holding microphones.
Yeah, the trick is you want to try to just pick a distance from your mouth and then try to keep it consistent.
Okay.
So you can have it right up or farther.
Yeah, sure.
But yeah, it's not like a hard stop. I try to get it rolling as soon as you come in. So
Right.
There's not that moment where we have a fun, loose conversation and I go, and
Ah.
now we're recording.
Yeah. Oh, I wish I got that. Yeah.
So it's and it's like you don't have to be funny or like charismatic. You can contradict yourself. You can interrupt people. Like it's very just whatever happens.
Nice.
A loose verbal jam. If you want something else, we got some. If you want.
I'm doing this, and I'm going immediately back up to Silva for an interview with a radio station.
Oh, nice.
Oh, yeah? Could you hold it a little closer? I feel like that might.
Okay.
Yeah, there you go.
That's all right.
Yeah, and then that'd be a good, just like pick a distance and. Yeah, Silva.
Yeah, I'm doing that, and I'm also 50-50 chance I could check my phone at any time and get a response from Mountain Express. So anything is going, could be anything. So.
Are you writing for Mountain Express now?
No, I interviewed with them.
Okay.
Yeah, you probably shouldn't put this in the podcast in case I don't get it. But
well,
Oh, when you get it, it'll be in the
when
podcast.
you get it, yeah.
Yeah.
This is like we're making it, visualizing it, or
Oh yeah.
Somebody talked about manifesting on stage at the open mic Wednesday, and then that was just the theme of the night. I guess you manifested that.
Who was it?
I don't remember.
Sounds like something Mario would say, but he's gone now.
Yeah.
He had a lot of jokes on that. Like, this
Good
is
old
your
Mario.
journey. Yeah. Miss Mario.
Yeah.
Oh, who was it? Was it Burks? Was it James Burks?
Oh yeah. I don't know.
Yeah, because he was like, I am the world's first trillionaire. I am in control of my wealth. Yeah, that was funny.
I've been taking a break from the open mics. I was sick, and then I was also dealing with some work stuff, but I'll be back more often pretty soon, I hope.
Yeah, I think this counts. That's what I'm starting to realize, and why I'm excited about doing a lot of these is I feel like, this is kind of, we're practicing talking.
Oh, yeah.
So this is kind of like a rep, I think. It's like, and it's different. It's like, stand up for me has always been like writing jokes, and then this is like conversation, but I'm trying to make them more, where when I'm on stage, it's more casual and conversational.
Yeah, right.
So this kind of, maybe it'll count as like, this is an hour too. So, I mean, that you'd have to do how many open mics to get an hour? Like 12 or something.
Yeah.
Right.
So this is, this counts.
Yeah. Talking in a microphone practice.
Yeah. And I was talking to Cody last night, to the Kava Bar last night, and I was like, oh, I got Cloud and Larry coming over. And he was like, that makes sense, that combination. So I don't know if you guys see that, but I was like, I know, right?
I was surprised when you said that I would be doing it with Cloud, because I thought that I was that I was like, oh, it does make sense.
Yeah.
Now you say it,
Yeah.
So.
I don't know if you guys see it, but to me, I'm like,
I was a little surprised, but I was like, I always have good conversations with Larry. I'm sure that people would like to hear them.
Well, like you did once you realized I wasn't some kind of a secret agent or whatever it was. You thought that I was.
I was. I did for a long time. I was like, Larry's definitely.
I showed up out of nowhere and started being on my computer at all the open mics. That's why they thought that.
secret agent.
Yeah. Well,
what would the motive be? Like, what would?
I don't know. You got to figure out.
Infiltrating the comedy scene. I was trying to find the communists in the comedy scene. The twist was that I was one myself. So.
you gotta
Anti-communism. That's what it is. It's like a 1950s. It's like McCarthyism thing.
Yeah, that's what it was. Yeah,
Yeah, I was listening to Democracy Now! On the way over here, and they're like, now the Republicans are cracking down on ethical business investors. So you can't even have awesome politics if you're an investor. Like they're cracking down on this nonprofit group that does a practice called ESG, which is basically like, let's just make sure that the environment isn't going to collapse before I invest in cotton or something like that.
Yeah, that's the most important thing. I mean, I wouldn't want my investments to be destroyed by the environment.
Right. It's just a sound business practice to be like, is this going to be around for 5 years?
Yeah, it is weird. It's like, why can't we just agree on the environment? It's like, if you're like a rich oil man, it's like, well, if you want to stay rich, there needs to be a planet that you can breathe on, and it's kind of, we're all.
I think they're counting on. They probably have secret bunkers or something like that, and they're counting on going to. I think for a while they were trying to go to Mars. I don't know if that's still part of the plan.
I'd rather die than be in a bunker or Mars. I mean, good lord! Like, have you seen Mars? It's all red and hellish.
You have to be stuck in a bubble, and you live in a bubble, and you wouldn't be able to go outside without a suit or whatever.
The suffering of the bubble. I mean, it would just die. Like, good lord. Now I get to live 20 more years in this bubble. Never see daylight.
I feel like that is a viable option for people who have never felt joy from the outdoors.
Yeah.
Like I can't picture Elon Musk frolicking in a field of flowers.
Yeah.
I don't see that as an activity he would value.
Yeah, I mean, I think most of his free time was trying to get validation on Twitter. That was a lot of what he did for fun.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a very indoor kid activity. I feel like daydreaming about Mars in a positive way. There's two types of way you can go as an indoor kid. One, you can really want to go to Mars, and the other one, you read enough sci-fi that we've mentally tried that already.
Yeah.
The great imaginers of the 20th century have already thought about that and been like, I don't know, it doesn't seem like such a good plan.
Yeah. Why not just take care of this place that's perfect instead of trying to get to some hellish weird.
Exactly.
I don't know. It's weird.
I don't know.
There's
I don't know
also
what we're gonna do.
That X-ray poisoning. Astronaut health isn't awesome. They do temporarily stop aging, but you also are exposed to more cosmic and solar radiation.
Yeah,
it's really bad for your body without Earth atmosphere to buff it.
And gravity is we're evolved to have gravity pulling on us.
with that, like maybe the radiation would turn us all into like better, more superhuman beings.
Oh, right. I
It
forgot
could be.
about that. I forgot about that
Yeah, because
part.
radiation can go both ways, right? Like it either kills you or it makes you like invincible.
That's how we evolved as a race. is,
Right.
You know,
I forgot that
the
Bruce
Mars
Banner was
radiation.
a biography.
Yeah.
I forgot
Yeah.
that was a real story.
Yeah,
And now I'm
gamma
thinking
rays.
of Watchmen again. I'm thinking of Dr. Manhattan and all the stuff is basically about that. So,
Yeah, I that reminds me of I mean, I don't know if we even really have radiation therapy figured out. There's like not much research on why people who get chemo get different hair when it comes back. There's like
Is that right?
Yeah.
You get your new hair is different.
yeah, one of my favorite
Yeah, like you get like curly hair the second time or something.
yeah, one of my favorite authors and scientists, Hank Green. He's also from the Vlogbrothers YouTube, long time stuff. He just went through chemotherapy for Hodgkin lymphoma, and his hair grew back curly
Oh wow.
and
That's
darker. And he was like, "Oh, I'll do some research into this." And apparently, there's not much research into it at
Nobody's
all.
looked
People
into
are
it.
just like, "No, you just got different hair now."
I know
Why?
It doesn't matter.
I know who those brothers are, Hank and John.
Does,
Green.
Yeah.
it, does it keep changing? Like if you keep going through, like each time it's different. Like if you're like bald, can you potentially get hair back?
I don't know.
Again? Do some chemo and then you're like,
Yeah,
oh,
maybe.
now I have hair again.
Yeah,
If
they
that's
did
something
it.
you're looking to try
I
here.
might
that,
be up for it. I think that's what's really holding
Spitballing
me
here.
back in my
You never know.
the hair.
Come in with like an Elvis Pompadour to the next open mic. It's like, like what happened, Ryan? You went through chemo. Got some hair.
Would you ever try like Rogaine or minoxidil?
No, never. I would not
Never.
fight nature. I mean, I was, bummed because I, would rather have hair, but like fighting nature, and then you're like addicted to some weird, and it's like vanity. It's like, just be old. That's going to be like more likely that I am gonna, maybe I need to like get a facelift or something. It's like, just be old,
Well, that's what I have.
have
I
a personality,
bit about
learn to
that.
be funny.
I have one joke sort of about that. It's like, like millennials are afraid to get old, and I really do
Yeah.
think that's like people are a lot of people our age are like, we're so afraid of getting old, and I'm like, why are you afraid of that? Like, you have more knowledge. Like, we still can do fun stuff. We don't have to be boring. Just we're getting old.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like I'm smarter and more like level-headed now than I was 10 years ago. So
Totally.
hopefully,
Yeah, and I just have so much like gratitude for the moment now, because like when I was in my 20s trying to like make it as a band, it was always like, what's the next?
Yeah.
And I see that with like younger comics sometimes, like, how do you get to that? And now I'm like, this is like this conversation. Did the Kava bar last night. It's like this is it. Like there's always amazing stuff going on. I feel like we're like in Paris in the 20s with just all these comedy and fun stuff. It's like there's no
Totally.
next thing that's better.
Right,
Like
totally.
being on the road alone. I mean, that might be its own adventure if you manage to get there. But this is like, it's happening now. And I had to get to my 40s before I really like fully embraced, because you can see death coming and people that you grow up with start to die, and you're like, hey, this could be like the last podcast or show. Let's have fun.
I totally agree. I feel like I've been telling my middle-aged millennial bit since I was 26, and now I'm 30, and I'm like, no, this is still halfway, halfway for a millennial. And maybe that's why I've gotten that perspective early, but I feel like I even got that in high school when I was looking at colleges. I looked at the people who would go to like go to the Ivies or Duke or Carolina, and they were just miserable all the time.
Yeah.
In high school, because they were busting their butts trying to do all the extracurriculars, trying to do all the AP classes and be the best at everything all the time. And I'm like, if that's the way you live your life in order to get to that success level, I don't think I want that success level.
Yeah, it's a prison of your own making, and you're like a kid.
You live your life doing the process, not in the end game.
Yeah.
So I want the life that I'm living to be a fun one.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's really what with comedy that is, like you brought it up just now. It's like a lot of comics they're so caught up in trying to go viral, and they're trying to get on all these festivals. It's like, are you even having fun? doing
Yeah,
comedy?
right.
Like, do you even like doing comedy? And like, it seems
Yeah.
like they're trying to. It's like a needle in a haystack to actually succeed at that level.
Yeah.
and you just have to enjoy it. I think.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
it's the millennial generational task to break our current definition of success. And like us three are kind of contemporaries with that, of like, we're breaking down barriers of what it means to be successful.
Yeah.
I essentially I've been doing comedy for about 9 years as of this year, and I've basically done everything wrong in comedy that you could do. I never even really tried to get successful in the way that we're talking about, and I eventually just after about 7 or 8 years, I was like, all right, I think I'm good, just having fun.
That's why I recorded your video for you, because I was like, I could tell you were going to have a good set, and I was like, Larry's not thinking about this kind of thing. Which,
that's right, yeah. But I was thinking about, like, the thing was, like, that day, I was thinking about, like, all right, maybe I should just go get a tripod and start trying to film set, but then of course like something else always happens. I essentially found out my job was ending that day, so it was like it's all the whole thing.
And I was like, I'm not going to tell Larry I'm recording him, because then that might like psych you out. So I'm going to like secretly record you, and then it was good. So I'm like, then I'll tell you later.
I did see the thing there. I figured there was at least a 75% chance you were recording me.
I was like, Larry's blind; he won't see the camera. They go.
No, you're wrong one.
It gets a little roasty at times. I can cut things out if I go too far with it. But yeah, I don't know. Do you guys see the similarity? Like, I feel like you guys, like with Cody, he was like, Cloud and Larry. That makes sense. Like, I feel like you guys are both like kind of like rant. You flex the rant muscle, which is like I'm trying to get into that. I've always been more like, what are the words I'm going to say? You flex. I think you're both like pretty community minded, and you flex the rant muscle.
Yeah, I can see.
You guys are like the same. You're like two sides of the same.
Yeah.
Two opposite sides of the same. You know.
You're the democratic socialist, and I'm the social ecology. You know.
Well, yeah, like I did join the DSA, but I don't like to label myself politically. I just joined that because I wanted to have some vehicle to do things. But yeah, you know.
That's important, and I believe so much in not only all paths to sobriety, but all paths to revolution. Everybody needs to be doing the thing that resonates with them the most.
Oh yeah.
And like, don't try to force yourself into a scene that's not where you jive, I guess.
Yeah, and that's like I started in Orlando, and there's a lot of comics there who are very good, but at the same time, it's like I just didn't really ever fit in fully there, even though that's my hometown. I just never really fit in with this comedy scene there as much as I wanted to. Like, there were some nice people there, good comics that I still like, but at the same time, like my whole ethos of doing comedy that evolved was just different from how they did it. And then I found Asheville, and it's like, oh, I got lucky that this is actually a scene where I do seem to fit in more. So I was glad for that.
Do you feel like you can talk about things you care about more here?
Yeah, I mean, in Orlando, the thing was like with I could talk about things there that I cared about. Just the Orlando's mindset when I was there for about 5 or 6 years, my first several years doing comedy, they were all about like, all right, well, you got to grind, you got to hustle, you got to like build the tightest, most machine-like set you possibly can. And like I didn't really have the word at the time, but I really just wanted to kind of fuck around and just sort of be loose on stage and try things, you know. And I wasn't very good for a long time for a lot of reasons, but I did want to just get up there and just do whatever, like experiment and really go the extra mile with that.
Yeah.
And because of that, I didn't really endear myself to a lot of the top comedians around there for a long time.
For a place with so many amusement parks, sounds like there was no room for amusement.
Yeah, well, I mean, they have fun.
You go to the parks
they're
for
not
that.
bad, but
you don't listen to a talking person for that.
Gotta compartmentalize your fun.
Yeah,
do all your fun 12 hours one day. Fun, and no fun the rest of the year.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not trying to make it sound bad, but they are very a lot of them are very talented over there. Just like it was just a different mindset overall.
Well, I think that's you hit on another thing that's similar about you, both of you. Is I feel like you guys are taking the long road to like your own. You both kind of doing it your own way instead of being like, all right, the first year I'm just going to write like Mitch Hedberg jokes or whatever, which is also valid. And then eventually you get into your own weird, unique thing. But I think both of y'all like kind of out of the gate are just pretty like. I mean, I didn't see you during like the first years, but you have like you seem like more experimental, more loose, and that's kind of the direction I'm trying to go into.
I don't think I got good until after COVID, actually. So like,
Like, do you know, Cloud? Like, do you have any sense of what you're going to say before you go up? Or
I try to. That's the thing is, I'm not really even sure if stand-up, the way everyone's doing it, is my medium, because I really try to write sets and do the jokes that I intend to do, but I also am so sensitive to what the crowd is feeling that I kind of can't just do what I intended mechanically. I will definitely pivot to what it feels like the audience wants. And that's a little bit like I need to be in a little more control, but I mostly know what I'm going to say, and I do write my bits, but like it seems very organic because I'm also very wrapped up in what I'm saying, and that's also why I will forget my punchlines sometimes, because I get in the same headspace as the person hearing it for the first time, and I'm like, oh, what are they going to say next?
Yeah.
I don't even know.
I feel like that's sort of what
that.
Ryan was talking about. I think that is a good quality to build on.
Yeah.
I feel like I remember I told you when I first moved here that you were, I liked how you were, like, essentially just doing like improvisational stuff all the time. And I said if you wanted to move forward, you should have the same jokes, but at the same time, I didn't want to disencourage what you were doing,
right?
Which was just doing a lot of strange, interesting things.
Yeah, it's like performance art. Like where is the line, the Venn diagram between like stand-up comedy, which is like changing a lot fast, and then there's like performance art, and I feel like you're kind of like got a foot in each one of those.
The way I see stand-up is like stand-up's definition is very much broadened a lot these days. There's almost any wide umbrella of things you can do.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Like one-liners is called stand-up. Talking about your trauma is called stand-up. It's like we're calling it all stand-up, but it could be so many different sub-genres.
I'm standing up, and you're allowed to laugh at me right now. That's the only thing. I think that's why I've been enjoying pivoting to doing a daily weather update on today's weather tonight, because it is a vehicle for me to talk about what's actually on my mind that specific day, but also there's enough structure that it seems recognizable. Like I have to talk about all these different weather phenomenon that I'm interested in, but I also get to go off on rants about what I think those mean. And that also, like, I'm also a very visual person, and it's hard in stand-up to stay grounded in what you intended to do when the visual doesn't have anything to do with it.
You have to kind of paint that visual.
Yeah.
And then we all have to picture it in our minds. You don't have the actual... You want like a PowerPoint or something? Like
oh, yeah. Well, the first time
I think Cameron's done that before. Like at Asheville Pizza, he's like, hey, there's this giant screen behind us. How come nobody's using this?
The first time I did public speaking really that made me want to do stand-up was when I gave my TEDx talk at UNCA. And that was about the intersection of like my sad mental health journey and my meteorological research on cloud iridescence. And that was when I realized, I love having a mic. I love being on stage. Like I put way more comedy in it than I intended to. And that was hard because they make you memorize the script. They're like, don't go off book.
Was that something you were doing as a student, or was that something else?
It was after I was a student there, when I was working as a event coordinator.
Yeah.
I had it was like
a
UNCA?
year.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Cool.
Yeah. So I was a student there for like 7
What'd you study?
years. I double majored in drama and meteorology.
Interesting.
So
you actually have like meteorology credentials.
Yes.
I didn't assume you didn't, but
Yes.
I didn't know that. I just see the comedy version of it. So
I feel like that's part of what I like about your comedy also, is that you're talking about your specialized thing that you're into and that you've gotten a degree in. And I think that's interesting when comedians do that, is really dig into their own specialty.
Instead of being like internet dating or whatever.
Yeah,
like
it doesn't have to be internet dating or your my husband, my wife, my kids. It can be whatever you want.
Right.
I think that goes back to what we were talking about earlier with following your joy and finding play in the process, because like what resonates as joyful and playful is going to be different for every person, because we're in different bodies and different lives. Like I think that's the really important thing we bring as individuated people, is that we're supposed to pursue what gives us passion and joy, and that's going to be different for everyone. So that gives the entire world a better view of what the world is.
Yeah, totally. And I feel like I'm even like, what makes me feel that way changes every few years too. Like I'm always becoming a new person too. So you got to reevaluate. Like you have
to be open to change. You have to be open to changing with the times and with your own soul or your mind, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
You have to be open to evolving as a person somehow.
Yeah. So you're like a writer, Larry. Like, how do you, it's kind of interesting to me that you kind of come like have a rant sort of. That's how I perceive it.
Thing is,
but then you get in your words. I would almost think that being like a writer professionally, that you would be more like one liner. But what's that like being a writer, but then getting up and just ranting?
Yeah, the thing is, like, I know, like, I do have that rant style, and I like to try to be improvisational a little bit if I can on stage, but all the bits that I do are actually very meticulously written out, and then
really?
it's just a process of, like, getting on stage and trying to make that sound like it's coming off the cuff, but everything I do, like, I write all the words down and everything, because that's what I do. I'm a writer. I'll write, like, this, essentially how I write jokes. I don't really write punchlines. I'll just write, like, a long block paragraph and then eventually find something funny out of that, like a sculptor of some kind.
Like you take it on stage and you don't necessarily know where the laughs are going to be. You're like,
yeah, I mean, I think I have more of an idea now than I used to.
Yeah,
but like I think around the first couple of years, I didn't know what I was doing at all. Like I was just writing. I would write a few jokes that were kind of like regular jokes. I'd write some that were kind of like rants. It was kind of like all over the place. And then eventually, I sort of like honed that into like, all right, well, it's kind of political. It's dark. It's a little bit like a. Like not exactly antagonizing the audience, but I did want to have some kind of a confrontational. Like that's just my personality. I'm not like I'm just not like the silly, laid back kind of personality. I can't really sell that on stage, so I had to lean into who I was, which is kind of a intense person that sometimes might be off-putting. So yeah.
Huh.
Yeah, and then the way I write now, I have more of an idea now of where the laughs are going to be. It's just like that you learn that over time, but I still basically do just write like long blocks of rants, and like I'll put in some funny little barbs or lines here and there, and then say it on stage half a dozen times. You figure out where the punchline is, and that's where you accentuate,
Yeah, I feel like Stanhope might do it sort of that way. I like to listen to a lot of podcasts. That's why I do this, to figure out how other people write and get ideas. And I think he sort of does that, where he's like a ranting maniac. Cult leader, but he actually is, but he actually is like writing it all out before. But then he might say it a little different.
Yeah, he's my favorite comedian.
Oh, is he?
Him and Bill Hicks are like two of the main guys.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And like, the thing with me is like both of those guys, like they're completely fearless. They have no qualms with completely walking the whole room.
Right.
And I'm like Cloud, in which I feel the tension and I will pivot in some way subtly, I'll back off and I'm trying to get to the point where I have no fear. But you kind of have to respect. Until you're a big name, you have to respect the room a little bit. You can't just walk the room as an open micer.
When the ticket has your name on it, then
you have a fan base, you have to at least consider the audience a little bit when you're on stage.
Yeah, how much do you care about the audience? Like, is it 100% for you?
No, I mean, the thing is, like, I think some of the bits that I've written are just sort of venting. Like, I'll talk about the war, or about things like that, and it's like I've questioned myself, like, what exactly do I hope the audience is getting out of this? But it's all about finding the funny, I think.
Okay, yeah, you want them to laugh, but are you trying to change their minds, or are you just like, this is just me talking?
I think it's just blowing off steam with talking about the war and things like that. So.
I'm almost the opposite, where what I do write is that I pre-write ahead the contrasting bits that are going to help people hear what I'm saying more. Like I try to plan where the spoonful of sugar is going to go with the medicine, because that's why I do so many extended metaphors, because I'm not trying to sound like Jesus or something talking in riddles all the time. I just like there's things I want to say.
I think there still is some of that in there.
Well, yeah.
Jesus riddles.
There's a lot of Jesus
That's the
riddles.
name of your special, Jesus riddles. I always like to.
But
sorry, go ahead.
No, that's funny. That's good. I just like to make sure that people don't tune out while I'm talking. So I will put in enough funny stuff or lighthearted or like self-deprecating stuff to make sure that they're still feeling on board, because I think people hear you better when they're having a good time.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And
for sure.
I try to make sure that like they're enjoying hearing about climate change more than they've enjoyed it before.
Yeah.
It's that's why I like
it's a hard
stand
topic
up.
to make fun.
I know.
It's like the most terrifying.
And there is the element also when you talk about climate change, like there's the sense of relief where they're like, oh yeah, we're all in this together. I think that sort of ties it together. You can pull it off well,
Yeah. And if you can get a laugh about something that we're all worried about, that's kind of a healing.
Right, yeah.
We're here tonight and we're laughing about it. We're laughing about it tonight, even though.
Right.
And that's where some of my stuff has come from. That's where a lot of your stuff comes from, I feel like. So yeah.
So you start with like what you talk about, do you start with like these are the things I want to talk about, because this is a common.
I almost never actually sit down to write comedy. I'll read something, or I'll think of something and I'll be like,
Right.
oh, that could be a good joke, and
I'm
then I'll
already
write
thinking
that down.
about it.
And it just comes organically. I really don't sit down with the intention of only writing jokes.
So you're like, this is what I'm already kind of obsessed with.
Yeah.
So it's going to be that, and then I'll see if I can find jokes on it. Is it like,
Right.
sort of like that?
How do you do it?
Well, I'm trying to get more like that. Like for the longest time, it was like whatever they laugh at, I'll keep saying, because it was so hard to get laughs, and I really did want to like write jokes. So it ended up being like kids, aging. There's just a few Asheville. But now I'm trying to move more into like expanding those topics, and like what do I fear? What do I love? What are these big passionate things in me? And then so I'm just trying to kind of like, this podcast is kind of part of that, like trying to get more real, more conversational. So
Right.
I'm kind of trying now that I'm coming up on 10 years to get more into like talking about the weird shit. And I guess the end goal is just to speak your truth, like to say things only I could say, like whatever. I don't even know what all that is yet, but it's to be like, I'm just saying only my life experience, and that somehow people see themselves in it and they enjoy it. That's the end. Like maybe I never get there, but that's like the 30-year goal.
Well, I've heard you talk about some of this stuff, and I know like your jokes are a lot about your family, and that really is stuff that only you can talk about.
Yeah,
like that's just how you put your own spin on it. So.
Yeah, hopefully there's like like the Dead Arthur bit is nice because like nobody else has being like, oh, kids sure are annoying. It's like that's pretty trite. So it's like trying to find the little things that are just authentically you. And that's what I like about y'all, is I feel like you kind of just embraced that from the beginning. And there's no wrong way, but I kind of came more from like set up punch writing, and now I'm trying to get into more of the way y'all do it.
Oh, cool. Thanks. I'm trying to get more into actual writing.
Right, yeah.
But I have been my entire comedy journey. I used to be way more incomprehensible. Like, I don't know if you remember when I started, but
I've enjoyed watching.
It was just, I mean, I'm already sound unhinged to people, but like before it was like, people were like, I don't even know what you're trying to say in that sentence.
You're kind of unhinged, but I also think like when people, who was I talking to this week? Like Alex was like, my first week in Nashville, I came to the mic and I just met Cloud outside, and they were so welcoming. And then, so I think you also kind of have like, it's kind of unhinged, but it's also like very community supportive too. So it's like, it kind of is a nice, we did a show at the Grey Eagle last year. Do you remember that show?
Yes.
And I remember that was a show where I've been kind of watching you do comedy, and it's like, you had like a really awesome set. And I was like, it's really like clicked in. I was like, I still don't think I've heard them say much of this before, but you really got the rhythm going on like your weird thing, and I was like really excited by that. I was like, all right, it's starting to work now.
Yeah.
At the Grey Eagle too.
My principle with anything is like, it's okay to be a niche. It's okay to be sort of just in your own lane. You don't have to appeal to everybody.
Oh, it's better, right? Like, that's my fear. Is I'm just like another middle-aged dad talking. It's like there's like a million of those. Like
but I feel like you do have your own voice, despite that. Like I feel like a lot of your stuff does have its own. You don't seem like you're just another generic comic.
That's like my biggest like thing that I like heard a lot, as I see it. You don't know how I see it. Is like not being like another dad in his 40s talking about his kids.
Yeah, the thing is like I feel like you've been doing it as long as I have, essentially. And this is about the time where I think you do develop your own voice, and I feel like you definitely have your own style and voice on stage. Like you don't have to be weird, but you have you're funny because you keep in the same tone and you have your own thing going on, and so you sell it.
Again, I think it's very wise and brave of you to try to want to find your individuality and niche. That's kind of the moment the world is in right now, where there are like middle-aged white dads who can't just rely on that. It's very like there's some foresight in there that you're seeing that's not going to be enough anymore in the future world.
Yeah.
So you're setting the example that everybody, no matter what